I'm underwriting my underwriting goal, which is absurd. Today is the first official day that I'm supposed to be drafting my new metal grade. I say it's supposed to be because I did actually already start it, as I mentioned in my outlining vlog. I added a few hundred words here and there over the last few days of my outlining week, totaling to 1,377. So that is my starting point for the beginning of this vlog. This week was supposed to be another outlining week, so I have actually gained an entire week in my whole grand scheme of drafting. Originally I planned to have 6 weeks. That would put me being done at the end of September. Now I have 7 weeks. I'm not bumping at my deadline. I'm still gonna keep it at the end of September. I pretty much always track my drafting progress in a website called Pacemaker, which I find super helpful just to sort of see the pace that you're on, and then also how much work you have to do to see if your deadline is actually reasonable or not. It does all the math for you, which is definitely good for us writers. But according to Pacemaker, I have weekends as I'm not writing anything. If I want to have it done by the end of September, I need to write 1,134 words every weekday, which is definitely doable. That gives me some flexibility too for maybe a few weekdays that I don't end up writing or don't quite make that goal. That's an easy enough thing that I can surpass on the regular. Like maybe I aim for like 1,500 every single day, and then that builds in some flexibility to the writing schedule as well. So that's where I'm at right now. Those initial words that I added to the draft were basically all of chapter 1. I had just a little tiny bit left to add to chapter 1 today, and then I moved on to chapter 2, and I just finished my first writing sprint of the day. I've got my little writing buddy here with me. She was just taking a little nap next to my computer. And then this is Pacemaker, so it's sort of just like does the math for you, helps you figure out your progress, and I'm a visual person, so this is just super helpful for me. But that is where I'm at right now. I am feeling really good about drafting again for the first time in a really long time. I know I'll reach a point where I hate the world and I hate the process and I hate everything that I'm writing and I think it's hot garbage, but right now we're in the it feels good phase still. I would take a second to give you a little update as I work on a little crochet project. I am officially done with Act 1, which is very exciting. Obviously, there's a longer process of revision ahead, and also something that happened is I got feedback on my outline from a few people. One chunk of feedback is from my critique group, which was really helpful. It was really good to talk through with them some of like the stuff that I was already concerned about, the stuff that I was considering, and then get some suggestions from them as well. So I have a few things to consider on A, some potential pitfalls to be aware of in the drafting, but then B, some ideas that came up during that session from them and myself on stuff that I could include. And that would involve a outline rewrite real quick, and it wouldn't really affect what I've done in Act 1 too much, but I probably would want to go back and just do a quick little pass on Act 1 to add sort of those elements in. The other bit of feedback I got was from another writing friend who I went to school with, and I actually haven't looked at her notes quite yet. I need to do that today whenever I sit down to write. So that's probably going to be my plan for today, is to go through her notes, sort of synthesize that with the notes that I got from my critique group, and do a quick little outline rework. I don't think that will take me too long. It definitely won't take me all day. And then I would like to get my daily word count goal in as well. This past week, it has been fairly easy to stay on track with my word count goals, especially now that I have that extra week to get through the zero draft before it's due in September. I've been doing about 1,000 to 1,200 words a day-ish, which has been good, and then that also has given me time to work on some other stuff like the crochet. I have a market coming up in September that I've been prepping for, and I'm feeling a bit nervous about it because it's gonna be the biggest market that I've done. It's definitely the most expensive booth fee that I've paid so far. I'm adding a few new products. This right here that I'm working on is a little pumpkin, and I think they're wonderful, and I'm definitely going to be making a few of these for myself because I just think they're super cute. And I also make the stems out of cinnamon sticks, and so they like smell good. I'm very excited about these pumpkins. And then I'm also adding some baby beanies and a rainbow baby blanket as well, which I think are adorable. So I've been a little bit busy this past week trying to get everything sorted and organized because I need to be able to launch all of those products on my website and Etsy before the market, and then also have time to prep like stock for those things because I have stock for like all my other items. There's a few things that I need to make a bit more of that have sold at other places, but these I have like none of. So I need to make a bunch of pumpkins and hope they sell and hope that I can actually make my booth fee back because it was a lot. In terms of the writing, I am feeling good about it. I'm kind of going through that whole like, this sucks, but it's a zero draft, and so I've just been like forcing myself to push through that. Right now, it's not about, I'm not writing the book right now. I'm writing the thing that will allow me to write the book later. This was always a mindset I had whenever I was writing essays, like in college. I would literally just word vomit on the page, and then when I actually sat down to like write the essay, that's whenever I would sort of organize it and clean it up and make the arguments good and not just like this because this and here's my citation. Like the actual writing came later in my brain, like the part where I made the essay real, and I feel like that's kind of the attitude I try to go into zero drafts with. Sometimes that can be difficult when you're trying to write such a large thing and trying not to skip too many places. I skip around a bit, but I try not to skip too much. That's the idea anyways. Okay, y'all, I was just editing this video, trying to just get a gauge of what I need to update you on for this wrap-up clip, and I realized that I'm literally wearing this shirt in every single update clip because I did not just put this on for the sake of the joke. I literally was wearing this while editing, and this is just the shirt that I chose to wear today. It's a comfy shirt, okay? I promise I haven't been wearing the same thing for 2 weeks straight. Anyways, I just thought that was really funny. We're at the end of our first 2 weeks of drafting for Project Game. These past 2 weeks I felt very good about the project, and also I can feel myself slipping into the dissatisfaction with where it is right now, and that always happens whenever I'm drafting, especially for zero drafts. Nothing just comes out the exact way that you feel it, the exact way that you would imagine the book going in your head, and so when it finally gets on the page and it's not that, it just feels really discouraging. Right now, my total word count is 9,188, and some of that has been in Act 2. My Act 1 is only 5,463 words of that total, which isn't actually quite ideal because my goal word count, at least for this draft, was 39,000 words, which means that my Act 1 should be closer to 7,000 to 9,000-ish. Obviously, a lot of that is kind of flexible, and it sort of depends on how the story shakes out exactly. It's not a formula or anything, but that's a significant enough difference that it makes me feel like my Act 1 is lacking. So far, I'm also not sure if I'm on pace in Act 2 either. I'll have a better idea of that once I reach the midpoint, because then I'll be able to see like what my word count is for half of Act 1. 39,000 was my goal because I knew I was going to underwrite, but I'm underwriting my underwriting goal. Which is absurd. I mentioned in the last clip that I got some feedback that made me want to sort of rework the outline a bit and then go back through Act 1 to add those things in. I actually didn't do that, and the reason I didn't do that is because when I worked through the new outline, I was like, okay, these changes are good. These changes inform the story a bit better, but they don't really change the story, if that makes sense. Like, the same scenes are happening, it's the same beats, they don't really shift the actual like structure of it. And draft zeros are so much just about structure for me and just getting the flow of the narrative that those details didn't seem important enough for me to stop my progress and go backwards for, if that makes sense. Since they don't change anything, I'm basically just writing forward as if I have already made those changes. And I think that is probably a contributor to why my Act 1 feels so small right now. There's also a couple things that I've already identified that I know I need to flesh out better in a second draft. Like, for example, the sister character. I know what I want from her, I know what role she wants to play, but I'm not super utilizing her very much in this draft, even though I know what she's supposed to be doing. I think my focus is just so tied into my main character and the main plot right now that I'm sort of dropping off a lot of those side plot details, if that makes sense. And I think that's probably where my underwriting tendencies come from, is I'm focusing on sort of that center line in the draft zero, and then in revisions is where I start to weave in some of the subplot things around that center line. Going back to sort of just like how I've been feeling on this draft though, like I said, there have been moments of discouragement just because that's the way that draft zeros are. I filmed a query update video and that sort of brought me back to thinking about my young adult book Project Shadows. And to make a long story short, I ended up having an idea for Project Shadows sequel, and so I went into the draft to sort of read a bit of it, and while I was reading it I was like, you know what? I actually really like this. This is good. It's just really nice to feel that about your own writing, because it's easy when you're in the moment doing the work to just feel the difficulty of that work and just sort of put that onto the story itself and make the story itself feel difficult and not good. But Project Shadows has been revised several times, it has been line edited, and it's in such a much more polished state than the word vomit I'm putting onto the page right now. It sort of gave me this better perspective of like, this will be there eventually. Like, I know logically that that is the process, but being able to see Project Shadows benefit from that process has really helped me the past few days be like, this will happen for Project Game, it's okay. I think I've come to the conclusion that zero drafting is my least favorite part of the writing process. I mean, zero drafting works for me. It definitely works for me, but I think the initial draft is my least favorite. I like outlining because I like planning the potential. There's still some uncertainty that goes along with that. And then I like revising because the hard work of getting the words onto the page is done. Now it's just a matter of refining those words and refining the order of the scenes and the structure of the story to make it like better. It's like, all right, let's see how good we can make this now. But then unlike outlining, revision comes with a much better certainty in my brain because I can see the progress that it's making. Line editing I surprisingly loved with Project Shadows. I was not expecting to love line editing because it's so granular. And so I think just recognizing that, you know, you're feeling this way for valid reasons, but also you're feeling this way because this is your least favorite part of the process, you just need to power through, has been a helpful motivator in staying on track. Now I'm just like excited to get to the part that I like. So that is where I'm at in drafting this middle grade so far. It has been very fun, and these characters are a lot less jaded by the world than my young adult characters are, so it has been fun to sort of like put myself into the mind of a child and just the absurd things that I thought and did whenever I was the age of 12. Let me know what you are working on right now, where you are in the process. I would love to get an update. What motivates you during the parts of the writing process that you may not necessarily care for as much. Next episode in this middle grade writing challenge series, I will be back with some more drafting, and hopefully I will be making more progress. Not hopefully, I will be making more progress. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!